The cell door slammed shut with a loud clang, echoing through the dimly lit holding facility. Officer Dean Harrington leaned against the bars with a smirk on his face, twirling his nightstick as if he'd just bagged the biggest criminals in the state. Inside, two men sat calmly, their hands cuffed, their eyes focused, and their expressions unreadable. They were Navy SEALs elite warriors, forged by fire and loyalty, and they were now prisoners of a corrupt system. The taller of the two, Chief Petty Officer Luke Granger, had a gash above his eye, dried blood streaking down his cheek. His teammate, Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Reed, sat silently beside him, his knuckles bruised, his jaw tight. They had been arrested the night before, after intervening in a violent mugging outside a downtown bar. The assailants were armed and outnumbered the victim, 5-1. Luke and Marcus stepped in without hesitation, disarmed the attackers, protected the civilian, and waited for the police. But when Officer Harrington arrived, everything turned sideways. Instead of thanking the SEALs, Harrington saw an opportunity. He ignored the civilian's testimony and the attackers' weapons strewn on the ground. He saw only two men he didn't recognize, dressed in civilian clothes, and a chance to flex his power. He made a choice, one born of ego and greed. He cuffed the SEALs, accused them of assault, and silenced the victim who tried to defend them. And now, 12 hours later, Harrington strutted through the courthouse like a king. He knew how the system worked. He had friends in high places, judges, lawyers, and politicians who owed him favors. The two men, sitting quietly in that cell, were just casualties of his arrogance. What he didn't know was who he was dealing with. As the courtroom filled with reporters, onlookers, and murmuring staff, Luke and Marcus were brought forward, chains clinking with every step. Dressed in orange jumpsuits, their calm demeanor betrayed no sign of panic. They stood straight, shoulders squared, their Navy training etched into every movement. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman with a reputation for fairness, raised an eyebrow. "At the docket, you're telling me these men were arrested for assault?" she asked, flipping through the file. Both veterans, one with a silver star. Harrington stepped forward with a smirk, adjusting his badge. They attacked civilians, caused a disturbance, resisted arrest. Luke's eyes flicked to Marcus. A small, knowing glance passed between them. Before the judge could respond, the courtroom doors opened with a low creak. Every head turned. The room fell silent as a man in full Navy dress uniform stepped into view. His chest bore a mosaic of medals. His posture commanded silence. And his presence, it was Admiral Thomas Grant. Luke and Marcus immediately stood at attention, despite the cuffs. The judge blinked, stunned. Harrington's face drained of color. "Your Honor," Admiral Grant said, his voice calm but ringing with authority. "I request to speak on behalf of these men." The judge nodded, clearly recognizing the significance. "Granted." Admiral Grant stepped forward, glancing briefly at Harrington with ice in his eyes. "These men are heroes. Chief Granger led a classified mission 2 years ago that saved 17 American lives behind enemy lines. Petty Officer Reed has twice risked his life to extract civilians from war zones. They're not only decorated, they're honorable. Last night, they stopped a violent assault. Multiple witnesses confirm it. And this officer," he paused, locking eyes with Harrington, "chose to ignore evidence and arrest them." Harrington stammered. "They didn't identify themselves. As military they were off duty," Grant snapped. "And last I checked, bravery isn't something that's limited to working hours." The judge looked furious. She turned to the bailiff. "Release them immediately. I'm ordering an investigation into Officer Harrington's conduct." The handcuffs dropped to the floor. Luke and Marcus rolled their wrists, the pressure marks still visible on their skin. But they didn't gloat. Instead, they saluted the Admiral with the same respect and humility they always had. Grant returned the salute and stepped forward to place a firm hand on each of their shoulders. "Justice will prevail," the judge added. "This court owes you both an apology." As the courtroom buzzed with murmurs and rising emotions, Harrington stepped back, panic etched into every line of his face. The reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. His empire of intimidation crumbled in seconds. He was arrested that same afternoon, charged with misconduct, tampering with evidence, and abuse of authority. The civilian he silenced came forward now with confidence, protected by the spotlight. In the days that followed, Luke and Marcus returned to base, but not before they were honored in a small, private ceremony led by Admiral Grant. No speeches, just the men who knew what sacrifice looked like, acknowledging those who carried the weight without complaint. In a rare moment of reflection, Luke sat beside Marcus on the base rooftop one night, staring out at the stars. "You ever think about how fast it can all turn upside down?" Luke asked quietly. "Yeah," Marcus replied, "but you also see how quickly the truth finds its way out." Luke nodded, then smiled. "Good thing we've got backup." And there, beneath the open sky, two brothers in arms found solace not just in their freedom, but in knowing that integrity, though often tested, still held power in the end. Message to the viewer: in a world where power is often abused and the system can be manipulated by ego and corruption, truth still has a voice, and courage still has its defenders. The story of these two SEALs reminds us that honor, loyalty, and integrity are more than just words, they're values worth standing for, no matter the cost. Let justice be louder than corruption. Let heroes walk free.